You're listening to episode number 27 of the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. If you're like most people, you've been taught that the money in your business comes from the service and the value that you create in the world. Well, you're going to discover in this episode that's not entirely true. Keep listening. Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here. Now, I'm not sure how long you've been listening to my podcast, but I did create an episode, a month ago or so, 2 months ago, and it was about the law of attraction and how money doesn't come from hard work. It doesn't come from the value that you create in the world. Money comes from your vibration and your frequency. And I had a kid, and I know he was a kid because I looked him up on Instagram, and he actually messaged me on Instagram. And when I say kid, he's probably 21 years old. And he said, I couldn't listen to the entire episode because I just didn't believe it. He goes, I've been taught that money comes from the value that you create in the world. And the more value that you create, the more money that you make. And I told him to go back and listen to the episode all the way through, and he might have a different perspective. And he did. And he messaged me a couple of days later and said that he did have a different perspective after listening to the whole thing. But what's funny is this kid was 21. I've been doing this longer than the kid's been alive. And, like this kid, a lot of you probably still believe the same, that same thing, is that money comes from the value that you create. Now, I'm going to actually create an episode probably in about 3 to 4 weeks, and we're going to go beyond value and we're going to go beyond contribution, and we're going to look at what I call AYNI, AYNI, which is ancient Incan for the reciprocity of life. We're not going to go into that now, but many of you work from that old belief that if I create a lot of value in life, then you know what? I'm going to grow my business and I'm going to make a lot of money. Well, look around. That's just not true. Many, many years ago, a gentleman named Earl Nightingale, I think he's probably one of the godfather of the personal development movement, or one of them, along with Napoleon Hill and a few others. But he has an audio program. It's very short, very succinct, and practically a very good program called The Strangest Secret. And he said in that program, he says, the amount of wealth that we create is dependent upon the amount of value that we create. And he gave an example. He said, if you drive through a rich neighborhood, these people overall are people that create more value in the world, and that's why they can afford nice homes. And if you drive through a poor neighborhood, these people create less value in the world in terms of, the social economy and overall economy, and therefore that's, why they live where they live. Well, what I want to point out here and what I want you to understand is that you can create value all day long and still not be wealthy. As a matter of fact, you can create value and a lot of value and actually be poor. So let me give you a couple of examples here. Now, many people actually, the first person they start referencing is Mother Teresa. Now, I don't obviously know her personal finances. However, she did have the richest corporation in the world behind her, which was the Catholic Church, which I believe they're also the largest landowner in the world. I don't know. I've just read that before. But you know what? Mother Teresa actually created extreme value in the world. Yet, was she a wealthy woman, monetarily? I was going to say physically, but monetarily. Also, look at social workers. I mean, these are people, social services and social workers. These are people that create a lot of value for families and many times especially for kids when it comes to social services. Yet, they create a lot of value. Are they wealthy? No, most of them make, I don't know what, 40, 50 grand a year. Look at school teachers. I mean, look at, many people will say they've got this favorite teacher that really impacted their life. I mean, this teacher created value for a lifetime. Yet, what do teachers make? I think starting teachers here in the U.S. might make 30 grand a year, and even, more seasoned teachers might make 70 grand a year. They're creating extreme value in the world, but they're not getting paid for the value. And as you're thinking, about this and you look around, look at all the value that you've created that you might not and probably have not been paid for. And even when you look out in the world, all the value that other people create and they are not paid for as well. So what I want to do is I want to dislodge that belief that, the more value that you create in the world, the more money that you're going to create in the world. Just not true. Many years ago, I used to have what I call the social worker mentality, meaning I used to literally think to myself, you know what, let me just help as many people as I possibly can. And there's still some resemblance, of that in me, evidenced by this podcast. I'm telling you, I get, and I hope, you're listening. So the fact that you're here listening means you're getting value. And I get messages every day, people saying, you know what, the podcast is changing my life and it's transformational and it's, really good content that I can apply in my life. Well, the reason that I'm putting all this out there is that I know it will create value for you. But this is what I also know, and obviously it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out, is that I'll get return value in people that want to register for my programs, over time or whenever that is. So as I'm putting out, so I'm receiving. But when I say, for example, that I used to have the social worker mentality, here is a huge mistake that I used to make, and I think many of you, actually I don't think, I know, because I've worked with enough people over the years, is that many people will say things like, you know what, I just want to help people, and I love what I do, but here's the fail point, is they say, I don't care about the money. And that's what I used to say is, you know what, I love what I do and I want to help as many people as I can, but I don't care about the money, which demonstrated that I had low wealth and prosperity consciousness. So, yes, we can go out and create value in the world. And what many people do is they work in a vacuum. They actually create value, but they don't actually request and they don't open themselves to receive value back in life because life is a cycle. So we have to go. It's important that we go. We don't have to do anything, but I was going to say we have to, but we go out in the world and we create value. And we have to couple that value with what I call prosperity consciousness. Because when you go out in the world and you create value and you actually value what you do and the value that you create. Now, that's prosperity consciousness. Now you're bringing the flow of energy and money and wealth and prosperity back into your life. So like the people that I mentioned earlier, the social workers and the teachers, you know what? Many years ago, I've helped, and over the years, and I still do, I've helped a lot of people, and I've created a lot of value in the world. But you know what? But when I didn't even value the value that I was creating, I was actually not making a lot of money. So it's not just about the value, it's about the value and your prosperity consciousness. And you hear me talking about perhaps in other episodes, and I know that, we want each episode to be self-contained, meaning somebody can listen to that and they can get it all from that episode. But there are so many threads that run through all of my episodes, and one of the threads is about identity. And actually, your subconscious identity governs your wealth. Because see, the identity that you have is what you put out, and then what you put out is how the world responds. So if your identity is of low value, and I see this a lot, people think what they have is of low value, and they put it out, and then what they do is they charge a low value. Then the world pays a low value, or doesn't pay at all because the world thinks low value is of no value. So they actually have low value on the value they create. They put that out in the world. The world responds of low value, and then the person can actually say, self-fulfilling prophecy, see, nobody pays me anything, therefore what I have is of no value. So how do you create value? Well, the way that we create value is obviously through the behavior of service that adds something to people's life. A place that I work from, and this is a line in The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, is that the universe is expanding. And what people want in their life is they want expansion. And to demonstrate that, you're listening right now to this podcast because it creates expansion in your life. It creates, expansion of mind or peace of mind or expansion of money or business or whatever it is for you. Relationship skills, it's different things for different people. But make no mistake, the reason you're listening is because this podcast creates expansion for you. And when you're creating expansion in the world and you value the expansion that you create, that's when you create the cycle of wealth. Not when you just put value out, but you don't value what you put out. I want to share something with you here. A good friend of mine, and I chat through these as I go, but a good friend of mine I want to talk about in just a minute. But I got an email a while back from a woman, and she said, Jim, I really enjoy the podcast, but you don't mention women a lot. Well, in my training programs and people that work with me, I do all the time because the most influential people in my life, other than my brother-in-law, the shaman, the most influential people have always been women. Now, I want to reference a woman who has, no question about it, made the biggest impact in my business over the years. Actually, I started working in her company, training her people, and I became her coach, but yet, and I didn't expect this to happen, she became my mentor. Now, the woman that I'm going to mention, she's an extremely private woman, so I don't want, even though she actually is very, very well known, I don't want to mention her name. So here's the thing. What happened is I knew who this woman was because she's quite literally a Dallas business icon. She owns she still does own, but she's closing it down, one of the largest private real estate companies in the United States. And, you see official rankings like in the Dallas Business Journal and stuff like that. And, every town has a publication like that. She's ranked as one of the most influential people in Dallas. NAR, the National Association of Realtors, actually has ranked her and named her as one of the top 20 thought leaders in national real estate. This woman is an icon. To be sexist here, the men listening, if you know who Roger Staubach is, the Dallas Cowboy quarterback in the 70s, she was his mentor through the 70s and a lifelong friend and still is. All right, so the story is I want to read something to you that she wrote to me. And to me, this is, let me flip to the page here. This is a game changer, and I'm going to do a lot more podcasts on this as we go. And I don't know I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I want to read something that she wrote to me. And let me flip here. She dated it, Jim, Heart to Heart, December 2010. And she says, "Ever wonder, Jim, how you will change the world? Here is a question I ask myself frequently, and I always come up with the same answers. Love, caring, energy, time, talent, respect, etc. I thrive on trying to be successful." Well, when she was 20, I'm actually not reading right now. When she was 29, she was appointed actually president of a real estate company that had 5,000 agents already, and this was back in the late 60s. So, I mean, she's been successful for many, many, many years, 50 years now, or more. Okay, let me keep on going here. She says Drucker, as in Peter Drucker. Drucker wrote, "Success. As it seems, you will achieve the greatest results in business and career if you drop the word achievement and you replace it with the word contribution. Success for me is not how high I have been, but at the end of the day, how many people I have brought with me." Very powerful. Now, as I said, I've known for a long time who this woman is, and I actually always wanted to meet her. So the fact that she became my mentor and candidly one of my closest and dearest friends, no question about it. I mean, this woman has made an indelible lifetime impact on my life. And the reason I exhaled there is she's a little older now. She's about 79, I guess, and she had a stroke a few years ago, and that significantly changed, a lot of things in her life. But no one has professionally impacted my life like her. And we went to lunch one day, the first day that I did some training in her company, and we were sitting there and we were actually sharing a coconut cream pie. And I said, "How is it that, you started your own company 10 years ago and you became one of the largest private real estate companies in Texas in just 10 years? And I thought she was going to say to me, marketing and advertising and name recognition and branding and all these things that most people would say. And she put down her spoon and she looked at me and she goes, "Oh, that's easy." She said 4 words. She goes, "Oh, that's easy. Love, care, concern, and giving." Love, care, concern, and giving. And through that, she has created extreme, extreme value in the world, and the world has returned that value to her. I've learned a lot about money from her. I remember her saying to me, this was 10 years ago, and candidly, I had not made my first million in a year at that time. And she said to me, she goes, Jim, the first million is the hardest to make, but after you make that, it is really, really easy. And I watched her, and she did value money because what she taught me is that the more value that you create and you value your value, the more money you make. And the more money you make, the more people that you can help. Now, I also want to go a different direction here for a second. I'm thinking through this and how I want to say it, is that I want to help everyone. I wish I could help everyone in the world. And the reality is that I can't. And the other reality is that a lot of people don't want to be helped. So, like for example, you've already heard me mention my transformational coaching programs. Well, the truth is this, is if I could invite everyone in the program and say, you know what, just go through the program and pay when you're done, which by the way, I've tried before because I really, do have that open heart. It doesn't work. And please don't write in and say, hey, you know what, I'm an exception to the rule. I don't buy it anymore. Because here's the reality, is if people don't have skin in the game, they don't appreciate it. There's a reason they are where they are. And if people do not put skin in the game, no matter what they say, they do not value what you give them. And if they don't value it, then they're not going to get the results. So where I look at it here, because this could be a conundrum for a lot of people, is that for me, really when I really got it is when I valued my work enough to make sure that, I got paid for the value that I created in the world. And I don't mean absolutely tit for tat, but I mean, if I'm going to create a lot of value in the world, then I deserve for that value to come back to me. Now, you've heard me mention my brother-in-law, the shaman, a lot. Not the shaman a lot, but you've heard me mention my brother-in-law, the shaman, a lot. And he said to me one time something that's very powerful, is he said, you know what, life is like an ATM. And if you keep taking money out, but you don't put money in, very quickly, you have no money in the ATM. And I recognized that me giving all those years and not valuing the value that I create, meaning I'm not getting money back and I'm not, getting sustenance or whatever back, by me not valuing the value that I was creating was the same thing as me going to the ATM machine. And you know what? I keep taking money out and taking it out, but never putting any money back in. And that's why for many years, even though I was making 6 figures, I still wasn't becoming wealthy. And I was making, I don't know, lower 6 figures back then, and I wasn't becoming wealthy. And what I've recognized, as I said earlier, is the more wealth that you have, that you use it as a tool, the more good you can do in the world and the more people that you can serve. You know what? A lot of times, and I see a lot of podcasts, and, they're an hour long. And a lot of times I think that less is more. This podcast is something like, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes long. But you know what? It's so easy for people to miss the message in this podcast. I mean, when I mention this woman who has built a company that has billions and billions and billions in sales in residential real estate, and she's literally an icon. I mean, every reputable business person in Dallas knows who she is. She's also what's the word? A stick of dynamite, so to speak. One time she and I were talking, and she's been friends of Ross Perot, the Texas billionaire, for a lot of years. And one day she's in the car with him. The car stopped. She hopped out. And Ross Perot said to her, well, you're supposed to wait for a man to open your door. And her her response to him was, well, you're a man and you're way too slow. I mean, it's just, and I just tell you that as an ancillary side note. But this woman has created extreme value in the world and then taken the value, and she recognizes the value. And I'm going to tell you something that just popped in my mind as I'm sharing this, this episode with you. And very, very personal. I don't think I've ever really told anybody this. But she told me one day, she goes, Jim, I've been doing what I've been doing for 50 years. And you know what? I don't think you recognize how good you are at what you do and the value that you create in the world. And that for me was my turning point that, you know what? I cannot be the social worker anymore. And I can't just say, oh, let me go create value. I have to couple that value with my own prosperity consciousness. So your transformational takeaway in this episode is focus on contribution. Absolutely. I never think about achievement because people ask me all the time. And you know what? In these episodes, I don't know how many you've listened to, but you have never, ever heard me talk, unless it's just a flippant word, but you've never heard me talk about achievement and success. Those are words I don't use a lot because to me it's a journey. But what I focus on is one thing, is how much growth and expansion can I create in people's lives? And when I actually create it in the lives of people that value the growth and expansion that I create, guess what? That value comes back to me. So the second part of your takeaway is this for this week is you must value your value. Because if you don't value your value, neither will other people. Okay, so the next episode is a Q&A, and I'm going to answer Nina's question. And Nina asked, great question, by the way. And for all of you that send in questions, I appreciate it. I've got a ton. I don't know how I'm going to get to them all. And when I go through them, what I do is I look for questions that I think will have the biggest utilitarian impact, meaning they'll reach the most amount of people psychologically. But Nina's question is this. What is the difference between attachment and commitment? Great question, Nina. Okay, and as I say on every podcast, thank you so much for listening. I'm so honored, and thank you for all that I've shared. I'm blessed and I'm grateful to be able to create more value and expansion in your world, which creates more value and expansion in my world, which means that I can serve more people. Okay, do what you can to make it a great day today. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. If you found value, they will too. So please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one, by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives. Thanks for listening.